Good morning, folks. Good morning. I hope you can hear me good. I don't have the generator running and the air conditioners aren't running. All of the windows are wide open. I have not made a video yesterday because I was really too busy. My host has been giving me a tour of my own RV and showing me, well, things that need work, showing me mistakes made during the process of manufacturing, and trying to help me to fix these things. And it's really kind of overwhelming. There's nothing tremendously hard to understand about any of this. It's just overwhelming. There's so much of it. And he's also pointing out the errors in this recent service that I've had to this coach. And what I'm writing, yeah, as if I'm writing, what I'm up here early in the morning talking about is that I am seriously thinking about giving up the RV lifestyle. And if you are involved in the RV lifestyle, I think you should seriously think about it as well. First, the way I'm doing it is I'm trying to go full time. I'm full time. I've been full time. And the juggling act is like about impossible. You have to have extremely deep pockets because you really, at some points, need to get a hotel room or empty out your coach, put things in storage. You have to be prepared to be separated while it's being worked upon. And it doesn't work very well if this is your main residence. So that is a problem right there. And I'm going to go into the history because I think the basic title of this is The End of the RV Lifestyle. America is over in many ways, including this lifestyle. What is the main cause of the problem? Well, I could say that RV manufacturers aren't up to snuff. And I would have to say that's mostly correct. There's probably a couple out there that are doing their best to do a good job. But I can't direct you to them. If I knew who they were, I would tell you. I would applaud them. They should be applauded. I hear of some manufacturers really going out of their way to take care of things. But the overall industry just plain sucks. And so, and then I hear the old ones are the better ones. You get them built before the rush, before the COVID rush to slap everything together, and you'll get a better RV. Well, there's problems with that as well because they too made mistakes when they were putting them together. They made some pretty terrible mistakes, some very stupid, foolish mistakes. And these things will bite you in the ass like you won't believe. And some of these things, they put them together in a way it's like, how's a guy supposed to fix that? How's a guy supposed to replace that? Now, of course, if you want to see something pretty wild, go look at the mechanics who are taking apart modern GM engines right now and doing little fixes and the major fixes they turn into. It's almost as if the world has turned against itself. I think America needs to turn in on itself, and I think America needs to reboot itself. I think America needs to pare back to the original structure the founders gave us, and then we might have a hope of having decent lives here. But as it is, we're at each other's throats, and there's nothing more symbolic of that than the RV business. And then these small operations that you hear are so wonderful. Well, I did go to one. I went to one recently in the middle of the heartland and had very good work. They are associated with the manufacturer, recommended by the manufacturer, across the street from the manufacturer. And when I pulled in the street, I couldn't tell which one I was going to. And their business is exploding. It's exploding. It's expanding because they're doing a good job, and they're the only ones doing what they're doing and making it kind of affordable. I mean, compared to what it would cost to have somebody else do this work, it's a really good deal. Um, it's an excellent deal, actually. As a matter of fact, when I find an outfit like that, I go back. As a matter of fact, it's like part of my circuit, if you will. I will plan that visit in my travels, in my regular activities. So the name of that business is Heat My RV. John Carrillo and his wife Hannah have got a really nice, I'll call it a tight little shop, and they're expanding. They're busting apart at the seams. I was there, and in comes a really new rig, beautiful paint on it. Of course, I looked at it and I said, "Man, I wish my rig looked that good." And but they're in there for the same problem I'm in there for. And of course, I know that when I get in and fire up my engine, I've got a much better driving machine. And I know that when I look at my cabinetry, it's much more solid. The woods are exquisite. You can't get these. I think we could get these woods today. We probably could if we had proper business, if our society was doing well. But I cannot recommend that you get any RV, because even the people that I turn to and trust don't get it right, all of it right. And the other problem is that there's a big sagging in the spirit, if you will. There is a big giant depression among RV owners, and I sought to get some support, generic support, very simple support. But because of problems in the courts that these folks have experienced, horrible miscarriages of justice, horrible injustices in the courts, they don't even want to try anymore. And then the partner, the manager of one fellow that I trust on my engines very well, she tells me that everybody's quitting the RV lifestyle. And even when I'm there talking with one of the stars in the business, I consider them stars because, believe me, they shine. I mean, compared to other people, they shine. And I started my trip with them quite a while back. I bought this rig, and the owner, dealer, told me that everything worked as it should. And somehow they produced warm, hot water for me. They had most everything running except the televisions, which weren't mounted up. Anyway, I don't want to go into detail about the rig and about the bad deal I got. And I am in over my head, or let me put it this way, I'm in far deeper than I ever thought possible. Live and learn. We lose quite often. I say don't lose the lesson. But I don't recommend RVs, and you're not going to see as many RVs on the road. Why? Well, people can't keep them on the road. They cannot get good service anywhere. I go to the authorized sites of a manufacturer or an inventor. I go to their people that they picked and have them install the product because, well, the main guy's 1,500 miles away. And they don't put it in right. They take shortcuts. And I'm driving wondering, well, there's still some body roll in this thing. And a little bit of porpoising, too. What the heck's going on? It turns out they didn't install them properly. They didn't install them per the manufacturer's instructions. And sadly, I have to go confront them and beg them to work on my coach. And I tell you right now, I wish that I had deep pockets, because I would just as soon drive over to the guy who invented the stuff and makes it and show them their job, show them him the work, and say, this is what they did. This is what they did to me. This is what I'm supposed to live with. And pay him to fix it if he wanted me to pay him. If he didn't want me to pay him, or if he wanted to work it out with that, well, but anyway, I'm going to call the people that did the job wrong back. Now, those guys were suspension experts. I went to the experts. They did the best they could. They put on, but they didn't. They took shortcuts. Instead of taking the wheels off and installing them on the airbags properly, they laid them in the line so that they're not working. $100 per airbag for a part, $800, and probably, more than that for labor. However, they did a good job on the Safety Plus, putting that in. And that has worked quite well. I'm very pleased with that. So they got something right. Anyway, I really would like to have this thing finessed, but it takes time. And basically, these things kind of own us. We don't own them. And that's the sad thing about all of our possessions. They kind of own us. We really don't own them in many ways. So that does sound anti-materialistic. But the fact is, we are material beings living in a material world. And right now, the stresses are so bad in society. Governments are out of hand in serious ways. The courts, at the best, are going to try to split the baby. As far as justice, I would have to say things are deteriorated, and I don't think anyone has budgets to fight crime. And the average person's not allowed to defend himself anymore. It's a pretty sad day. We aren't even allowed our inalienable rights. Your inalienable right to life. It's no longer a right. You can't defend yourself. But what I'm getting at is just to give you a figure. The owner of that wonderful business told me they used to go to all of the jamborees, all of the get-togethers. And there used to be 6,000 coaches, 5,000 or 6,000 coaches at these. And today it's down to maybe 1,500 max. So this is a way of life that is going by the wayside. And the old rigs are being parked because the owners can't afford to take the chance. Because if you have a breakdown and you're stuck, you don't know who's going to work on your rig. And the odds are they're not going to be doing you any favors. We've had people with horror tales from major manufacturers like Freightliner, major manufacturers like Cummins. We've had people with Caterpillars. We've had people that they just can't get good service. It's just not working very well. And it's really sad. Now, I plan upon going to these, I keep calling them the Jamboree, but that's not what they call them. But I'm planning on going to those events. And I plan on going to anything that educates me more about maintaining my coach and more about prevention. Now, When I had a fellow inspect my roof, I thought he was trustworthy and I thought he knew what he was doing. And at this point, I don't think so, because this fellow pointed out things that that guy missed. And I'm sorry. Um, what these people that are supposedly honest, and I mean, I've dealt with this one outfit for more than 10 years, and I thought they were pretty honest, but there were some problems and some difficulties, and I didn't pay enough attention to those. And here at the very end, they're doing work that I didn't authorize. It's substandard work. It's hokey, and I don't want that. I want something that looks good, that functions. I want something that I can actually use what they have. I want things installed in a way that if I'm in bad weather, it will hold up. Uh, I want things installed in a way that if I'm going to be in the sun, I don't have to go out of my way to maintain something so that it doesn't deteriorate and start leaking water on me. Well, all that made sense before I got here. And then I got here, and now I'm seeing how the poor condition of it, and the actual negligence of those people that I entrusted. I mean, it's absolute negligence. This rig needs so much work. It's going to require so much that I have to change my plans. I'm just going to slow down, and I'm going to take my time because I have to triage this out. I was triaging it before, and I'm still working on things and still trying to do it in the right order. These things are expensive to do, and so they need to be done in the proper order so you don't waste resources. And you cannot get good service. That's just the way it is. Please, if I will be looking more towards, first of all, the basic thing is if you want something done right, you do it yourself. And I'm in a position in which I've had it done and they didn't do it at all right. And I really wished I'd have done it myself, because I've got a bit of a rat's nest to untangle here. And I don't know what it's going to be like. Some of my parts did not get delivered. They didn't arrive. And so I've got to get those parts, and then it delays things. But also it delays things quite a bit. And then some of this stuff, just I've gone to the specialist and they've done the best they can. And some of these like the old parking brake, they're just not well understood because this is old technology at this point. It's not used very much. And I bought brand new parts, and I'm told looks like a rebuilt one to me. And I've had some parts rebuilt because I couldn't afford to buy the brand new part. And it didn't go together well. So it's going to be the most expensive brake job ever. And, and the sad thing is that the fellows that did the work did the best they could and thought they had it down right. And these things are kind of a mystery. But if I really would love to fix it, I would have to have a lot of money and go right up probably to the manufacturer and pay huge amounts of money. One part alone is $1,900, and that's before shipping. And I probably need all the other parts that I've already put in there. Those are probably all bad now. I just don't know. I just know that this is a safety issue. And so I'm going to be calling good friends, and I'm going to be reminding them of previous, I'm going to be asking them to bail me out and seeing if I can do them some favors in return. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to take a hard, deep breath, and I'm going to go to where I need to go to get the coach worked on properly. I'm I'm going to make the phone calls first, and I'm going to give people that have done poor work a chance to correct it. But I will tell you this: um, I'm in court, and this outfit claims that they did good work. Well, after 3 floods and 3 water leaks, I don't think it's good work. And I had to take out the entire water filter system that they put in. And I don't dare put it back in until I've really sorted everything out. And then when I started this thing, I was looking at the carpet thinking, well, I can get by with stretching it. Now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, hell no. I'm going to have to replace this. I have no idea how much they're going to want for carpet and labor on this rig, on the basement. So I'm looking at major damages from them, and I have to somehow prove it. And I just don't know what to make of it at all. I'm kind of at my wit's end. Now I want to tell you about my first RV. My first RV was a 25-foot-long travel trailer made by a major manufacturer who has an excellent reputation. And I went by the factory and I had the factory tour and I saw how they do things there. And I was duly impressed. And I towed my travel trailer around the country. Matter of fact, I think, and don't hold me to this because all my papers have been destroyed, my records were lost. I just had to toss out all this. I lost a lot of personal papers, letters of recommendation, transcripts, honors, awards, and less than optimal circumstances and things. Papers that I had saved, papers from my previous pet. I had to toss all that out. So I can't go through resets like this much more. I don't want to, but of course, I know I'm not in charge of this life. I don't feel hopeless. I don't feel very helpless either, but I am too much under the gun, and I need a break. And I need to be able to sort this out. But when I tried to sort out that travel trailer, I didn't have it sorted out even at the end. I owned that thing for several years. I bought it in 2011. And I had that thing until 2018, 2017, when it was totaled out from underneath me. The frame was wrecked completely. There was no way to salvage that thing. It was really bad. But just before that, a young fellow who was working in the off-road business, if you will, he does a lot of welding, a lot of modifications on vehicles to take them off-road into the desert. And these are young guys, and this is a hobby. They love it. They know it. And it was a small outfit, and just 2 or 3 guys there. And they were pretty personable, and I went by there to have a little welding job done because the spare tire mount had broken, and I wanted to get that fixed. And I think I had a couple other things broken as well. I wanted to get those tagged up also. And these guys did it, and they were pretty good about it. And as I was talking to the fellow about the fact that I've already put 2 sets of axles under this trailer, and I've broken the leaf springs and had to put beefed up leaf springs and put an extra core, if you will, a spindle around the drive shaft to give it some more integrity, and that the trailer was rated at 8,000 pounds gross weight. That was the total weight. And I told him the problem was that they only put 7,000 pounds of axle under it. Each axle was rated at 3,500 pounds. Okay, so you're 1,000 pounds short of safety, in my opinion. How they got away with this, I don't know. And then, of all the darn things, it turns out that the springs that they put in it they took the shortcuts there because I had to replace the springs twice as well. And they went with a beefed up leaf at the end. And at the end of this, they warned me, don't think you can put more weight on this thing because you can't. And then I realized that the whole thing was compromised because it had not been engineered properly. But it wasn't me who realized how improper the engineering was. When I added up the weights of the capacity of the springs, it was 6,250 pounds, if I'm remembering properly. So that's 1,750 pounds too light. No wonder I went through 2 sets of axles. Well, 3 sets including the original ones. The last set of axles were sprung in the accident. I mean, the thing was barely towable. It gave us giant resistance. Now, this young man, as I'm walking off, told me somebody engineered that because he's trying to tell me how dangerous my rig is. And he pointed out, they built that thing on 5,000 pounds of lug nuts. Those lug nuts of yours are rated at only 5,000 pounds. 8,000 pound trailer. I was extremely upset. The woman in the axle business, and she knew her business, man. I mean, I'm impressed. And she took the time to explain things to me. And then again, I'm impressed. I love it when these people take the time. It really gives me some confidence. And it makes me want to go back to see them as well. And it also gives me warnings as to limitations on things. Anyway, 5,000 pounds of lug nuts, a little over 16,000 pounds of springs, 7,000 pounds of axles. It turns out that this little travel trailer of mine was pushed out the door back when they had tremendous demands. And so they were cranking them out. And the woman in the axle business, and that business is Axle Incorporated, and I will applaud them. There's some excellent business. Elkhart, Indiana, off in the industrial area. Really, really good business. I highly recommend them. They also helped me with my brakes as well. And I actually went to the guys that were rated super high with the reputation for fifth wheels, and I sat there for quite a while waiting on them to get my brakes, and it was a really expensive brake job. And they put the cheapest parts on it they could. They were Chinese-made brakes, and they were not standardized, and they didn't have standard brake pads with standard holes with holes in them and bolts that you could put them on so you could replace the pads. They were throwaway brakes. And I also found out that the bolts and stuff that were coming out of China were not Magna, whatever it is, tested Magna Flux. They weren't tested to the engineering specifications we had in our heyday in the 1950s and 60s. And so nobody was standing behind the warranties. You want to buy an RV? Don't do it. And I did want to have an outfit inspect this before I bought it, but there wasn't a way to make that happen. The owner, seller, dealer wasn't going to allow me to take it to this place. And they wanted more money than I could afford. But of course, right now, I'm thinking that would have been more affordable than what I've been dealing with and what I've been shelling out. And I have a lot more to shell out. Don't buy an RV. I listened to Steve Leto, an attorney out of Michigan, and he's a car guy. And he comes up with some incredible videos, and he's always said, don't buy an RV. There are no protections. And if you buy an RV, only buy something, well, they're not meant for us to live in full time. And a lot of these manufacturers get out of warranty claims because it's not designed for full time use. And most of the modern RVs just aren't made very well. And you get the older ones, they break a lot. So you're still stuck getting service because the old parts break. The old plastic gets brittle. Things wear out. The old connections, they give way. And so you are going to have to maintain the old one as well. When I got into After my accident, in which my travel trailer was totaled, my parents decided they wanted to give me their RV. It was a Bounder. It had been in storage for 4 years, which really hurt it. As a matter of fact, it damaged the roof in a really odd way. It got hit by an object. The membrane and the luan both got cut, and the skylight was taken out. And so we didn't know about that for a long time, and it took a long time for me to discover that and work that out. And the insurance company dragged me around terribly, most horribly. And they kept telling me it's just normal wear and tear. And of course, I told them, I don't think so. And when I finally made a contract and the fellow was getting up there, I told him, if you find anything untoward, anything that indicates some damage, let me know, and I'll be damned. In a few minutes, he's up there calling me up there. We're taking a picture of a gash that long. So something in the wind while in storage in Las Vegas hit the roof of the coach and cut all the way through the membrane and hit the skylight and broke the skylight. That was the cause of my water leak on that roof. And we let the insurance company know. They still refused to cover it. I had to take them to court to get them to pay up. You don't want to buy an RV. You're not going to see many RVs on the road. These are reasonable lifestyles. There's nothing wrong with it. I know that it'll be knocked because you're adding to greenhouse gases, which is a bunch of bullshit. Yes, we are producing some carbon, but life on the earth is designed around carbon. There might be some silicone entities, at the vents of some of these heat vents in the bottom of the ocean. There might be life forms based on something other than carbon here, but for the most part it's carbon. So there's nothing wrong with carbon. They're lying about that. They're destroying us still, and it's just really pretty weird time. So what I want to emphasize to you is that I want to tell you a bit more about my parents. Were going to give me the Bounder, and I bought it from them. I had a friend who decided to interfere in my life because she knew my family dynamics enough, and I guess she thought she was doing the friendly thing, and she said, John, you need to buy it from them. Well, I did get a reasonable settlement on the travel trailer. I didn't get a reasonable settlement on my tow vehicle. I was towing it with a half-ton Porsche Cayenne. I got really hurt badly on that. That also was totaled in the accident. And so I paid my parents for the motorhome, and I took a lot of money. And the Bounder was a motorhome that they searched hard for and thought for a long time. After owning several RVs, that's what they wanted, and they wanted something short with some power to it, with big tanks on it, because they like to go off for 4 months at a time. And so they bought that. and I got the Bounder, and it had the best engine of any gas power plant in an RV to date. They still haven't put a good engine in a gas-fired RV, in my opinion, and that engine was a Ford 460 V8. That's the old, I think it's push rod, and it's also cast iron heads, cast iron block, lot of low end grunt, and it had the Gale Banks power pack installed on it, which gave it 100 more foot-pounds of torque. It really did help it quite a bit. Gave it some more fuel efficiency and gave it enough power so that I was bragging when I went to resell it that I was passing trucks daily. I didn't pass every truck, but I passed a few trucks with that rig. And it was really nice to handle, but it was getting kind of small for me and I wasn't functioning well. And the air conditioning was so loud that with my hearing, I couldn't hear myself think. And it was really difficult to spend time in hot climates with it. And I still was working on my physical recovery at that time, which took a lot longer than I imagined it was going to take. And so I did pass that on after buying this rig. And the Bounder was a nice rig. It was really a good rig for two people to travel in. Very maneuverable, and you could tow a Toad. My parents towed a Honda Fit behind it, and I got that from them as well. So I bought that from them also. I treated the Bounder as if it's going to be my motorhome for the rest of my life. I took the best care of it I could. I put on a roof with a lifetime warranty, and that outfit was pretty good. They had to come out and touch out the roof a little bit. It was a rough job for them because it had a steel frame and not an aluminum frame, so it was pretty rough for the guy working on it. And they took pretty good care of me, and so they're a pretty good outfit. I think that it's pretty pricey for what it is. But compared to the options that you have out there, my option was to go with Camping World was telling me it was going to be $10,000 to $12,000, and Camping World always costs more than their estimate. And I would have to be out of it for at least a week, and of course I probably would have had to take in a hotel for more like 3 weeks. So it was going to cost a lot more, and so I turned to the RV Armor people. I would not recommend staying in the coach when they do the job because I just don't trust those chemicals. The smell was just absolutely horrible. So I don't recommend that, but they do a good job and they do come out and they service it. They were out many times servicing mine. I had, even when a fellow who's supposed to know what he knew was trying to get me to hire him to coat the roof because it was peeling, and he just didn't understand. I told him what it was, and so I called up RV Armor, and they came out again for on a warranty call, and they found a little bit, but they also found that the guy was wrong, that I had taped up, used some masking tape to tape up a plastic garbage bag because I wanted to keep the heat out, and I wanted to preserve the new skylight because I was told the skylight would deteriorate in the sun. So I decided, well, fine, I don't need that heat in here anyway. So I taped it up, and the masking tape, it was that adhesive that the fellow thought was parts that, well, he diagnosed that as the roof flaking, and he was totally wrong. And the people at RV Armor, he told me, you don't put anything up on this. You don't tape to it again. You can't do it like this. You can't fix it because if we have to come out, we may charge you for a service call. So they were real straight ahead. They were out twice before. The coating was not as thick as it should have been. They made up for it and took care of that. And then I also had some problems because of I was in a really bad storm and had some problems as a result of that. And they found that there was some checking or cracking, so they took care of that. So I hope that outfit stays in business. I think they're a good outfit. So I can recommend, RV Armor based upon that. Um, this rig, I had the roof inspected. I was told everything was good. But there was the skylight should be replaced for prevention. Okay, didn't need to be replaced. It was the original skylight. Replace it. I assume that. Well, anyway, I'm not going to talk about that case very much right now, but you assume that people are going to use the right parts and they're going to use good parts and they're not going to cheat you or cut corners. Well, forget it. Everybody's out for themselves right now, and so they put up something that doesn't fit. It wasn't even as big as the hole, and they didn't even use all that much sealer they claimed they had. But I didn't approve that skylight. It's an opaque white thing that's not the right shape or the right size, and it's put in with a lot of screws and a lot of Dicor, and it's not even a lot of Dicor for what they did. And it's also prone to being broken by the hail because this thing was built with a double paned skylight, and you can still get those. I thought they would use the right parts on this thing. It's a vintage coach. You diminish the value when you put, and especially when you put stuff on it, it looks like a Frankenstein fix. I mean, it looks horrible. I've got pictures, and the court's got the pictures at this point as well. So what I'm getting at is you cannot get good service. Now, there are some people that are pretty doggone good. My brake job was kind of a fluke. Those guys found problems with the brakes, and I had some problems with the brakes. And whoever put the brakes on this thing put something upside down, and one of the shoes was going on and off. It was slowing me down, and I was going faster and slowing me down. That's what it was. Somebody put the brake shoes on upside down. So you really, when it comes to things like brakes, you've got to go to the specialists. You've got to go to people that do that work all the time because that's a safety issue. When it comes to the suspension, I went to the specialist and they just didn't quite do. They did one thing right, the other thing they half-assed it, and they didn't do it right. If you can go to these main centers of these service people or these people that are the inventors of some of these things, for instance, I would recommend going to the Safety Plus people in the Carolinas. Well, for one thing, they give you a free hat when they do it, and they put it on right there and they do it right. So that's an outfit that I've heard good things about, and I wish I could have afforded the fuel to drive across the country and have that experience with them. So that's one I will say is very good. I've also used Source Engineering for his comfort valves, and he stood behind his product really well. And I wish that I'd had him install the things because the people that he recommended didn't do it well. So that outfit, I'm not going to name them. I will give them a chance on the phone before I say anything about them. I've been to several different places around the country getting repairs done. I've been full-time now for more than 13 years. This is my third rig. Has it lived up to my hopes? Actually, it hasn't quite done it. And it's because of the design of the rig itself. It's also because my hearing has deteriorated and I really need quiet. Would I buy another rig? Probably, if I had a windfall and was feeling kind of foolish and wanted to burn some money. Yeah. But just like Steve Leto has said many times in his videos, and of course I didn't hear his warning in advance, There are no protections. There's no lemon law. And the nightmares that you hear about, people's lives are being destroyed. And as a matter of fact, I've been harmed by all of this. So you need to understand that it is a risky business. It is extremely dangerous. I have no backup. It's like I'm here at a friend's, an acquaintance, a guy who really knows these coaches very well, and I was hoping to do some work up here, and he would supervise me because he has the knowledge and the skills. But we've run into some snafus here, and I don't think I'm going to be able to stay here for very long, and it's a bit uncomfortable because neighbors are nosy. That's all I'm going to say, and I guess government entities don't have anything more to do. But I was hoping to be able to relax, take my time, and learn how to develop some skills and take care of things. And looks like I'm not going to be able to do that. So now part of the problem is I have to have a place where I can work on my rig. I'd like to have a place where it's secure enough I can unload it, which means basically I have to probably rent a storage room to unload this thing to be able to get to do the work on it. That's the problem with full-time. If you're full-time, my guideline for you is this. If you're going to buy an old coach, you need to have 3 times the amount of money. You need to have whatever the coach is going to cost you. And then you have to be prepared to spend, it's just a general guideline, about that same amount of money to get it the way you want it and get it up to snuff to get it on the road. And then you need to have that amount of money in reserve in case of breakdowns. Now it appears you're never going to have enough money, and you need to have a house. You need to have a home base to operate from. You just cannot operate one of these things very safely and reliably and securely, because breakdowns, when they occur, you don't know where you're going to be. You don't know what neighborhood you're going to be in. And as the master mechanic, retired Caterpillar master troubleshooter told me, the name of the game is prevention. And so I'm learning all I can, and unfortunately, it costs money, and you think you're going to spend money and do something right. Well, you need money for something else that's actually more important you didn't know about. So you have to be really careful with one of these rigs. And I would recommend that if you're going to go full time, that you wait and you go through the rig for a long time, all ways you can, because there's going to be surprises. There's going to be things that the previous owners have done to it that nobody's going to tell you about. And there's going to be things that they've done to it that they know about that they're going to hide from you. And there's going to be things that they've not maintained. And it's going to be a nightmare on some of these things to take care of them. So the roof is the most important thing, for certain. And mine has been compromised by the shoddy workmanship that recently occurred. And it will leak. It's probably leaking already. So I have to, and I understand what it takes. I've been schooled in it. I was hoping to be able to get some work done here. I didn't know it needed that much work on the roof, though. Now that I've been up there and looked at that carefully, the fellow that inspected it and the guys that worked on it, they didn't see any of the problems. They didn't catch the real problems. Not only that, when they replaced the running lights, they created more problems. And when they replaced the skylight, they created more vulnerabilities, more problems. So, and they're expecting that and as an old man, I'm not going to get up on the roof and I'm not going to inspect it. Well, I don't like getting up on the roof, but I went and got myself a ladder and I saw it. And I was like taken back by it. I mean, it's like, wow, you treat me that way after all these years? that you put on that, like that. And then my buddy across the way who has a similar rig, when he saw me pull up with the coach and saw the work they had done, he saw how bad it was. And he was really upset because they did such a horrible job by putting in parts that were too small and trying to fill it in with silicone. Well, okay, or whatever it was they used. The real parts were available. You can get the right stuff, but they didn't bother. Same with the skylight. They didn't. I thought they would be using the right parts. The right parts cost the same, pretty much. Anyway, actually, the skylight, I think it was a little bit cheaper. There's an adage: it takes as much energy to be good as it does to be bad. And that was one that came from Yogi Bhajan, a spiritual teacher that I had briefly in my life a while back, who made a major impression. And of course, the advantage I had of following that fellow was he gave me a very disciplined life, and it helped me to recover from my indulgences. I inhaled, I'm not going to pull a Bill Clinton on you. I did stupid stuff and I harmed myself. And so by following that path, I actually was able to recover. It took me a lot longer than what I imagined it was going to take, and I certainly left something behind. I don't think I got everything back by a long shot, and I don't recommend going down that road, but today the world is experimenting with that. Now, I did buy this book finally that's pretty expensive. By the time you pay the sales tax, the shipping, and the author's fees, I think it's kind of expensive at $50. It's just about $50 to get this thing. And I saved up and I waited, and I finally, after referring to this book, I finally bought it myself. And I'm going to do my other video on this. It's a whole separate book. But I want to let you know that I really can't recommend the RV lifestyle. And of course, life is expensive everywhere. My friend in the middle of the country who's doing wonderfully, she's paying $900 for rent in a place that's really not that good. It's okay. I think I was paying, in Alaska a while back, I was paying $400 rent for a similar place. So she's living a nice life, but the rent is $900. And then I've got a friend that's over in Tennessee. She came from Virginia, and she's hardworking as a nurse's aide. It's about the lowest paid menial job. It's like one level above. It's slavery work, basically. Nobody wants to do that work. It's cleaning up, it's managing people, it's hard work, and she's got a good ethic about her. And so they take advantage of her. And she's looking at housing now, and they want $1,000 a week for this temporary lodging, And of course, the reason it's so expensive is because of our stinking government, because we're bringing in the illegals. And Mayorkas is down there recruiting, by the way. They actually have camps outside of the country where they assemble people to bring in here. And your Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, is funding that and making sure that we're being invaded. And because of that, those people are placed in higher-end hotels at full fare. And the lower-end hotels are way expensive now. And so they're probably twice what they should be, all because this government is spending the money, splurging, and devaluing the currency by doing that, stealing from you and I. So the government, they are liars and thieves. It is organized crime at the highest level, and it's enforced by a bunch of thugs, by a bunch of criminals. You have criminal organizations killing people all the time. And if you don't believe me, then look at what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania recently. They killed people there. They didn't get Trump, and they didn't get JD like they wanted to. Believe me, they're no saints. They're both sinners. We all are. But this book, This book we're going to cover in the next video that I'm going to start right now. I've been delaying this for a while. But just don't buy an RV. People, the bills can be so astronomical. And the stories are so horrendous, and I wish I could remember the details. I've heard the stories more than I want to hear them. But there was one person who broke down, and we're talking about a major outfit that has representation over the country. Think about one of the biggest ones in the country in the trucking business. They went there and they lied to these people about their Caterpillar motor and what it needed. And they took it apart and did all kinds of work that didn't need to be done on it, and never did the work that needed to be done on it. It was way over $15,000 of bad work. And they ended up settling in court. Yeah, it ended up going to court, and I think it cost them another $5,000 or $6,000 to get the work done properly. And they ended up going to court, and I think they settled for $5,000. Folks, it's not a justice system. It's a system of undue process. It's not a good system. We need to return to our roots. We need the great American reset. Look at my other videos for that. I know this one is going to draw some people from the RV crowd. People are parking these old rigs and living out of them. I'm in a quandary. Do I fix this thing up? Do I ditch it? What do I go to? Where do I go to? So I've got that problem, and I've got to make major decisions. There's no safe place in this country anymore. The governments are all corporate governments. They're not safe one bit. Washington, D.C., bunch of liars and thieves, and they're not even in proper offices. That's not even the proper seat of authority. That is an illegal jurisdiction there that's ruling the rest of us. It's only authorized to rule the 10 square miles of Washington, D.C., but yet they own most of Alaska. And before you feel too hopeless over this, realize if we ever get a proper American reset, we can bankrupt these corporations that have grown up and pretended to be our government. We can bankrupt all of them. The Federal Reserve System is not part of our government. We can bankrupt them easy. The CDC is not part of our own government. I was really shocked when I found that out. I think we can go after them too. And this Congress, it really isn't a part of our own government. We're illegally occupied and controlled. We are the House of Israel in America. And we're suffering from amnesia. And the worst thing is we've turned our backs on Creator, Father, God, Yahweh. And this is what we have going for us today. I'm going to cover everything in this next video that's going up immediately after this one. The RV lifestyle is dying. And it's just like it's symbolic of America. There's very little honesty. There is very little pride in having integrity. So if you can find somebody who actually says, I screwed up on that job, bring it back, and they're having to pay money for parts and labor, and you ask them what it's going to cost me, and they tell you, I stand behind my work. It's not going to cost you a thing. When you find somebody like that, realize you've got a real gem. And on that closing, I will tell you that I was really upset when B&H Auto decided they were going to stop working on RVs because they didn't have enough room. Really hard to find people like that with that kind of integrity. And Howard's got a pretty twisted sense of humor, and his son's there, and we joke with each other pretty seriously at times, but there's nothing like being able to have a good laugh and being able to be treated, honestly and fairly. So I recommend B&H Auto, and that's located right there on the boundary, meridian between Mesa, East Mesa, and Apache Junction. There's some good people out there, and we need to get the word out that they're good. We really do, because a lot of us are suffering because we turn to people. And oh, by the way, there's a phenomenon that leads to a bad business. It's called a family business. And when I was working as an intern in Mississippi, I got schooled in this a bit. I really appreciate the education I got there. And one of the things was the family, the original parents, would really work hard to establish a good reputation, a good business, and treat everybody wonderfully. The children would get in there and take the business over, and they would not have the same standards. They would look at this as a cash cow. And that's what happened to, I think, that Johnson outfit that was up there, just in northern part of Indiana, to put the Chinese brake parts on my travel trailer and charged me out the ass for them. I mean, they charged me $1,200 or $1,300, and they made me wait there an inordinate amount of time. And it turned out that Axle could have put on American parts with pads that were standardized that could be replaced, and it would have been cheaper because their labor rate was lower. And even if I had paid the higher labor rate of the other outfit, it would have been $700. Yes. Now, this phenomena is the children milk it for all it's worth. And they live on the good reputation of the parents. That's the only reason they get by. And the grandchildren usually destroy the business completely. By then, it's absolutely no good. So you have to be careful, because even though the parents are still present in this business in Apache Junction, the ethic has changed. Even though I had pretty much 10 years of good experience working with them, they treated me honestly and fairly, and gave me proper quotes, and gave me the old parts when they were done. They've changed now, and you can't get that. And the son is trying to manage the business, has hired new hands who are, and my buddy and I went over that work, and it was so poor, it was so bad that they really shouldn't have charged me at all for it. And we're going to be going to court with a counterclaim, seeking to get a refund and be awarded damages. I have no idea how it will come out, but the real problems to me are I still have to work on this rig. I still have to get things done on it. And the shipment was delivered, and looks like Porch Bandits got to it. So, yes, I know parts aren't the easiest things to get these days, but they can be had. Look, do yourself a favor. If you're going to buy an RV, just use it part-time and buy a lot smaller one than what you planned on. Go as efficient as you can. Remember that the parks are expensive. They've been crowded. The prices are still jacked up on a per night stay, so it's really not a very affordable lifestyle anymore. And we are continuing to have problems in this country, and it's not going to get any better. If you want to get a bug out rig, I like those Quigley 4-wheel drive vans, short wheelbase. Well, they're shorter wheelbase than what I was driving and what I drive now. Those are pretty good. But you need to understand that when this thing comes apart, it's not going to be very pretty. But my hope and my prayer is that at least in the heartland, it won't be on your big city, in your big cities and on the coast, but at least in the heartland, there will be people who will look out for each other and somebody, you know, somebody will actually be honest, be fair, be sharing, and and will be kind. Remember that. If they're not kind, have nothing to do with them. Doesn't matter what religion or what race. The main thing is if they're not kind, avoid them because there's going to be problems. And by the way, this dog of mine alerted on the son of that business. She doesn't alert for no reason at all. And the alert on him was a little stronger than just a stranger. She's got a high gain function, mind you, that just tells me that I'm in trouble. And she's a better judge of character than this old psychologist ever wanted to be. May Yahweh bless.